This is not a McDonald's! Get out!
Single dad was denied food for his son at a restaurant. What the chef did next shocked everyone. The little boy kept staring at the cheeseburger. His eyes never left it. Fresh steam rose slowly from the plate as waiters carried expensive meals across the luxury restaurant. 8-year-old Ethan Brooks swallowed hard. "Dad, it smells really good," he whispered quietly. His father forced a smile. "I know, buddy." Then everything changed. A loud voice suddenly echoed across the restaurant. "If you can't pay, you need to leave immediately." Every customer turned. Standing near table 14 was Marcus Brooks. 35 years old. Worn work boots. Cheap jacket soaked from rain. And beside him, his hungry little son. The restaurant manager glared at them with disgust. "You embarrassed this establishment enough already," he snapped loudly. People began staring. Whispering. Judging. Marcus lowered his head calmly. "I was just asking if I could split one meal with my son. I get paid tomorrow." The manager laughed coldly. "This isn't a homeless shelter." Gasps spread across nearby tables. Ethan looked down instantly. Ashamed. Humiliated. And while wealthy customers silently watched the scene unfold, one person inside the kitchen froze completely. The head chef. Chef Adrien Laurent. Famous across the city. Award-winning. Respected by celebrities. And at that exact moment, he quietly removed his apron. Because something about the single father standing in that restaurant felt painfully familiar. What happened next would change all of their lives forever. Marcus Brooks used to have a different life. A happy one. Years earlier, he worked as a construction foreman. Good income. Small house. Beautiful wife. And every Sunday morning, the smell of pancakes filled their tiny kitchen while music played softly through the house. Back then, life felt safe. Until one terrible winter night destroyed everything. A drunk driver crossed the highway divider. Marcus survived. His wife didn't. And after that night, nothing inside him ever fully healed. But grief wasn't the hardest part. Raising Ethan alone became the real battle. Because Ethan was born with severe diabetes. Medical bills piled endlessly. Insulin costs rose every month. And after Marcus missed too much work caring for Ethan during hospital visits, he lost his job. One problem became 10. Then 20. Eventually, the house disappeared too. For nearly a year, Marcus and Ethan lived inside a tiny motel room beside the freeway. Still, Marcus never complained. Not once. Every morning he woke before sunrise to work temporary construction jobs across the city. Roof repairs. Concrete mixing. Demolition cleanup. Anything honest. Anything legal. Anything that fed Ethan. And despite carrying exhaustion in every part of his body, Marcus remained gentle. Always gentle. He helped elderly neighbors carry groceries. Shared motel food with struggling families. And every night before bed, he told Ethan the same thing. "We're poor right now, buddy. But poor people can still be good people." Ethan believed him completely. Because children listen more closely to kindness than money. The night they entered that restaurant, Marcus had only $20 left. But Ethan had just completed another difficult hospital treatment earlier that day. And while walking home through the cold rain, Ethan stopped outside the restaurant window. The smell drifting outside was overwhelming. Warm bread. Grilled meat. French fries. Real food. Not instant noodles. Not vending machine snacks. Marcus saw the look in his son's eyes. And something inside him broke quietly. So he made a decision. He would skip eating again. Just so Ethan could have one real meal. But when Marcus explained the situation politely to the manager, humiliation arrived instead. Back inside the restaurant, the silence became unbearable. Customers looked uncomfortable. But nobody intervened. Because embarrassment spreads fear through crowds. Then suddenly, a calm voice echoed from the kitchen entrance. "That's enough." Everyone turned. Chef Adrien Laurent walked slowly across the restaurant floor, still wearing his white chef jacket. The manager immediately panicked. "Chef Laurent, I can explain." "No," Adrien interrupted quietly. His eyes never left Marcus. Then Adrien looked at Ethan. Hungry. Cold. Trying not to cry. And for a brief moment, the famous chef stopped breathing. Because 26 years earlier, he had once been that same little boy. Before becoming one of the most celebrated chefs in the country, Adrien Laurent grew up in deep poverty. His mother cleaned hotel bathrooms. His father disappeared before Adrien learned to walk. And many nights, they survived on stale bread donated behind restaurants. One memory haunted him forever. When he was 9 years old, his mother once brought him into a fancy restaurant hoping to buy him soup during a snowstorm. Instead, they were mocked publicly and forced outside. Adrien never forgot the shame in his mother's eyes. Never. And standing before Marcus and Ethan now, that same pain returned instantly. So Adrien made a choice. One that shocked everyone watching. He walked directly to Ethan's table. Then slowly knelt beside him. "What would you like for dinner, young man?" The restaurant froze. Ethan looked terrified. I don't know." Adrien smiled warmly. "How about the best cheeseburger in the city?" Ethan's eyes widened slightly. "Really?" Adrien nodded. "And dessert too." The manager stepped forward nervously. "Chef, company policy." Adrien stood slowly. Then removed the gold executive badge from his chef coat. The same badge representing years of prestige. "If kindness violates company policy," Adrien said calmly, "then this restaurant has forgotten why food exists." Complete silence. Nobody moved. Then something unexpected happened. One elderly woman near the window began clapping softly. Then another customer joined. Then another. Until the entire restaurant erupted into applause. Except the manager. Because his face had turned pale. Very pale. And there was a reason for that. A hidden reason nobody else knew yet. What Marcus didn't realize was that several customers recorded the entire humiliation on their phones. Within hours, videos flooded social media. Millions watched the manager insult the struggling father publicly. But one detail caught people's attention more than anything else. The fear in the manager's face when Adrien spoke. Because behind the scenes, the restaurant chain hid something dangerous. For years, management secretly threw away massive amounts of perfectly good food every night. Employees were forbidden from helping homeless people nearby. Anyone who broke policy risked termination. But Adrien quietly ignored those rules for years. Late every night, he packed leftover meals into containers and distributed them anonymously across shelters and poor neighborhoods. Nobody knew. Except one person. The dishwasher. A quiet immigrant named Rosa Martinez. Rosa had watched Adrien feed struggling families secretly for nearly 5 years. And she also knew something else. The manager had been stealing charity donation money from the restaurant's annual community food drives. Thousands of dollars. Maybe more. Rosa stayed silent out of fear. Until now. Because seeing Marcus humiliated in front of his son finally broke her heart completely. The next morning, everything exploded publicly. Rosa anonymously released documents proving the manager stole donation funds intended for low-income families. Receipts, transfers, fake invoices. And suddenly, the internet turned furious. News stations arrived outside the restaurant. Sponsors threatened contracts. Customers demanded answers. Meanwhile, Marcus sat quietly inside the motel room, completely unaware his life had become national news. He was focused on something far more important. Ethan's insulin. Because despite everything happening online, they still couldn't afford next month's medication. That afternoon, someone knocked on their motel door. Marcus opened it carefully. Then froze. Standing outside was Chef Adrien Laurent himself, holding grocery bags. And beside him, a woman wearing a gray business suit. "Mr. Brooks," Adrien said softly, "this is Evelyn Carter." Marcus recognized the name instantly. Founder of Carter Hospitality Group. Billionaire owner of dozens of luxury hotels and restaurants. One of the most powerful women in the industry. Marcus looked confused. Evelyn smiled gently. "Chef Laurent told me about your son." Marcus immediately became uncomfortable. "You don't owe us anything." Evelyn's expression softened. "That's exactly why I wanted to help." Then she looked around the tiny motel room. The cracked walls. The medicine bottles. Ethan sleeping beneath a thin blanket. And suddenly, her eyes filled with emotion. Because 20 years earlier, Evelyn herself once grew up inside a motel exactly like this. Success had simply hidden the memory. Until now. Over the next few weeks, something unbelievable happened. The story spread everywhere. Millions of people supported Marcus and Ethan online. Not because they wanted drama. Because they recognized dignity. Marcus never insulted the restaurant publicly. Never begged for pity. Never acted bitter. Even after humiliation. And strangely, that quiet strength touched people more deeply than anger ever could. Then came the biggest surprise of all. Evelyn Carter publicly fired the corrupt restaurant manager live during a press conference. But she didn't stop there. She announced a brand new national program providing free meals through all Carter restaurants for struggling parents and children. The audience erupted. Reporters immediately surrounded Adrien. "You risked your career for strangers," one journalist said. Adrien answered simply. "No child should feel ashamed for being hungry." That quote spread across the entire country. Meanwhile, Marcus's life slowly began changing. Evelyn offered him a stable management job overseeing maintenance operations for her hotel properties. Good salary. Healthcare. Housing assistance. At first Marcus refused politely. "I'm not looking for charity." Evelyn smiled. "It isn't charity." Then she handed him a folder. Inside were glowing recommendations from every construction supervisor Marcus had worked temporary jobs for. One note read, "Hardest worker I've ever hired." Another said, "Would trust this man with my family." Marcus stared silently. Because while struggling financially, he never realized people had quietly noticed his character all along. And character has a strange way of surviving poverty. Months later, Ethan's health improved dramatically. For the first time in years, his insulin treatments became stable. One evening, Marcus took Ethan back to the same restaurant. But this time, everything looked different. Staff members greeted them warmly. A special table waited near the kitchen. And when Ethan walked inside, every employee applauded softly. The little boy froze in shock. Chef Adrian approached smiling. "You hungry today, champ?" Ethan grinned proudly. "Very." That night, Marcus watched his son laugh freely while eating without fear or shame. And quietly, he turned away, wiping tears from his eyes. Because fathers carry pain silently until their children finally feel safe. Later that evening, after the restaurant closed, Adrian sat beside Marcus outside beneath glowing city lights. For several moments, neither man spoke. Then Marcus asked quietly, "Why did you help us?" Adrian stared through the restaurant window thoughtfully. "Because someone once looked away when my mother needed kindness." He smiled sadly. "I promised myself I never would." Marcus nodded slowly. And in that moment, two exhausted men understood each other perfectly. Not through wealth. Not through status. But through survival. That night, Marcus tucked Ethan into bed inside their new apartment. Real beds. Warm kitchen. Quiet neighborhood. A real home. As Ethan drifted to sleep, he whispered softly, "Dad?" Marcus smiled. "Yeah, buddy." Ethan held his hand tightly. "You always said poor people can still be good people." Marcus nodded. Ethan smiled sleepily. "I think good people become rich in different ways." Marcus covered his mouth quietly, crying. Because after losing almost everything, his son still saw beauty in the world. Outside the apartment window, city lights shimmered softly in the darkness. And for the first time in many years, Marcus Brooks no longer felt like life was defeating him. Because sometimes, one act of kindness feeds far more than hunger. Sometimes it restores dignity. Sometimes it restores hope. And sometimes, it changes generations forever.